So Dana comes out as a little holiday treat for everybody on Thanksgiving and announces Conor McGregor versus Cowboy Cerrone, mid-January, 170 pounds. For some reason, guys, 170 pounds went over everybody's head. Dana called it welterweight. Maybe that was why. Maybe I just find that more interesting than everybody else, but we have to take a look at this. Look, Conor coming back. Conor going to fight Cowboy. Conor do it in January. Check, and check. Knew all of these things. Welcome to old news that wasn't made official. But 170 pounds not only changes the dynamic of that fight immensely, it changes the potential storyline rolling through 2020 and possibly all of Conor McGregor's career. Now, let's unpack this real fast. Conor McGregor, and I will admit this is off the top of my head without looking at his record, but Conor McGregor has only had 2 fights ever go his way where it has not gone the distance. By example, he went the distance with Max Holloway. He went the distance with Nate Diaz Part 2. I do not know of another fight that Conor's ever had that went the distance, let alone that Conor's ever won. Point being, Conor finishes fights. It's like Mike Tyson said, if you ever look for the finish and don't get it, you're not going to win the decision. There's a lot of truth to that, to a guy that can go and put his foot on the gas pedal and floor it and go on a sprint. Conor McGregor goes on sprints. If you even listen to what Conor said after his first Nate fight, he said, man, I hit that guy with shots that has put every one of my previous opponents down. It didn't put him down. So I just kept throwing the shots. They just kept landing. I wasn't efficient with my energy, which was a nice way of him saying, I got tired and I had to stop fighting. In Part 2, Conor was a lot smarter. He was a lot more tactical. But we still learn something, right? We do still learn something that Conor, from his own admittance, some of his shots and some of that power and the effectiveness and the result that those shots garnered isn't the same at 170 pounds. To make believe that he is a more decorated striker than Cowboy Cerrone is false. But if you wanted to believe that he was the better striker, you could go ahead and say that. Nobody could disprove it, and then them boys are going to have to go out and fight and show us what's true. The point I'm trying to make, let's speculate, why is the fight at 170 pounds? I thought Conor's big beef was with Khabib. I thought Conor's biggest beef was with Khabib. If I remember right, he called out Frankie Edgar as recently as 30 days ago to fight at 155. Every clue we've had about Conor McGregor said 155, which is why I feel as though 170 is such a treat. They're giving us what we wanted, but not what we expected. The greatest promoter's trick of all time. Give the audience what they want, but not what they're expecting. And I do feel that the element of 170 pounds changes things. I think if Conor was to go up against Cowboy, and we'll never know, I'll just guess, at 155 pounds, the lines that came out today would have had Conor a little less than 3-1 as a favorite. A little bit less, but right in there. Plus 275. That's not the case at 170. Not particularly when Conor is not known to ground and pound and he's not known to submit you. He's known as one kind of a fighter. Stand up, right? This is what he's known for. Well, now he's walking into Cowboy's game. Now, let's just say that Conor, even if not on paper, even if not with the resume of Cowboy, is better at that game. And if you wanted to come to that conclusion, you're well within your rights. Conor has done some fascinating things on his feet in both MMA and in boxing. But when you understand that he is a finisher, okay? Let me tell you this. Let's go back to the great Mike Tyson. If Mike Tyson was going to do a fight, and I had a crystal ball, but the only piece of evidence I would tell you is Mike's not going to knock this guy out. That I can tell you. I've seen the future. Mike Tyson does not win by knockout. No, you tell me who wins and you go place your bet. You're not near as likely to bet on Mike. You're just not. You're going to go, wait, he knocks everybody out. And if he doesn't, he generally doesn't win. I mean, it's one of these things, and I'm not counting Conor out. That's not what I'm doing right now. I'm just sharing with you that this fight got a lot more interesting with those 15 pounds. The likelihood of Cowboy Cerrone getting knocked out at 170 pounds drops tremendously. So now I must ask you, if you're a Conor supporter, I have to ask you the question. If Conor can't knock him out, how does Conor beat him? And you're not left with a whole lot of options. Yeah, you could say submission. You could say he's going to go all 5 rounds and get a decision. I'm just saying, historically, it's tough to look at his record and come to that conclusion. Yeah, he's going to ground and pound him and control him like Daniel Cormier. Historically, have we seen that skill set from him? The fight just got more interesting. Now, set the X's and the O's of the fight aside. What does this mean? Conor's now at 170. Well, we've seen Conor bounce up to 170. We've seen him drop right back down 155. I understand that if we're talking history, that's a very fair claim, and that might be exactly what he's going to do. But let's say he's not. Let's say he's not. Let's say he's staying at 170. I think we can all agree his fight with Nate Diaz works. It works tonight. It works tomorrow. It works a year from now. It works the day after that. But doesn't a fight with Conor versus Nate Diaz, I apologize, Nick Diaz, isn't that going to get your interest for all of the same reasons that Nick versus Masvidal got your interest? And speaking of Masvidal, I mean, haven't we just hit the nail on the head? If you're just looking to do business, if you're just looking to get people to stop what they're doing, as Daniel Cormier says, and I like how Daniel said this, I hope this catches on, to bring people together. What is a fight that can bring people together to stop what they're doing and sit and watch? Are you telling me Conor McGregor versus George Masvidal doesn't bring people together? There's a lot of very interesting options. And when you do look at 170 pounds, it's in a tough spot right now. Who's the rightful number 1 contender? George Masvidal is. Does it make as much sense for Masvidal to go fight for the title as it does to go do something else? Nick Diaz, Conor McGregor, come to mind. Particularly when you're faced with a rankings system that has just as good of an argument for a young man named Leon Edwards. You could skip over Masvidal as the number 1 contender and not have anybody look twice at you and go, well, hey, that was the wrong thing. And you're just using Masvidal because he's a huge star and you're just trying to make money right now. Yeah, okay, great. All those things are true. I just don't want it to look like those are true. By the way, a guy named Leon Edwards is 8 deep over 2 years. Are you telling me there's not a compelling case that he fights for the title? All I'm offering for you guys isn't what happens or where the pieces go. What I'm offering you is, first off, when Dana put out that this fight was going to be at welterweight, there was something about the word welterweight where people didn't quite understand. That's 170 pounds. That's a whole new set of parity for Conor McGregor, potentially. Conor goes and gets a win over Cowboy, he goes and does whatever he wants, including slide back to 155, which would be a good bet. But I do think this all harpens back to what we over here at Bad Guy Inc. did point out to you guys close to 7 months ago, when the genius himself got asked by TMZ on the streets of Los Angeles, would you put McGregor against Masvidal? And he quickly said no. Masvidal's too big for him. I told you guys 20 minutes after that statement was made that was not going to sit well with Conor. The genius told you 3 days after that statement was made that he'd already been getting phone calls from Conor because that statement didn't sit well with Conor. And now you've got the return of Conor at 170 pounds. Mark my words, he's coming after George Masvidal.